channel. This is Ryan Aranda here, my best life Paraguay. And today we're going to be taking a look at a documentary by Moon, right? The channel Moon, and this is covering the topic of why Colombian Latinas are killing lonely men for profit, right? Uh, Colombia has been having this issue, especially Medellín in particular, right? So this is probably going to be pretty interesting, man. We'll probably have some universal themes to talk about, when men date abroad. Also, there's some consequences of certain places you should certainly avoid, right? And yeah, so yeah, let's get into it.
A 28-year-old software developer from Atlanta wakes up alone in a hotel room 1,975 miles from home. The room is just completely trashed and he has no memory of the night before. Scrambling for a phone that is no longer there, he notices empty bottles on the nightstand, sheets pulled off the bed, and panic starts to set in. He swipes the clothes on the floor to check for his wallet, his bag, even his expensive work watch, all gone. The more his eyes dart across the room looking around, the more painful his headache becomes. This wasn't a normal hangover. There's a metal taste in his mouth and his stomach is starting to cramp. Marcus can hardly think straight and just wants to go home. But at least my passport is still secure, he thinks. But then he sees it. The door of the hotel safe wide open and empty. Anxiety turns to dread. They took everything. But just a few days ago, everything was fine. So what had happened? His memory was blank besides the faintest hint of perfume and cigarette smoke. He closed his eyes and could hear the echo of clicking high heels on a marble floor, a woman's voice speaking rapid Spanish down the phone. And then from that, a word sounded through the pain in his head. It was a name, Camilla. A week ago, Marcus sat in his apartment staring at his phone in total silence. He'd been messaging an American woman for 2 weeks. It felt like real conversations, not just small talk. She'd actually engaged with his story, she asked about his work, and seemed genuinely interested in him. For the first time in months, he felt like maybe he was getting somewhere. Like maybe he'd finally broken through that invisible wall that seemed to exist between him and the opposite gender. After a couple of beers, he asked. A simple dinner invitation, nothing pushy. She read this message, and then there was no reply. A typical thing for him. Typical. He just had that feeling again that he couldn't shake. This woman was another in a sequence of rejection. His heart grew colder and his perspective dimmer and darker. Later that night, he found himself in a familiar territory. He'd been searching Medellín for months, partly because he'd heard good things from people he knew, but also because of the content that had been piped into his feed. Non-stop videos of these guys filming themselves on GoPros, partying with beautiful women in exotic places, where you could just be with a beautiful, wholesome woman, drinking cheap beers on an exotic beach, speaking some broken Spanish, and really just enjoying life. And all it seemed to take was a plane flight. Marcus understood that he was in a vulnerable state, but he just couldn't stop himself. How could you? How could you even resist the temptation of this? He'd started off just watching simple dating content or discussions on how romance in the Western world had changed. But after getting recommended content showing how much different dating abroad was, and the seemingly infinite upside you get as a young American bachelor with some cash, he grew more and more desperate. And now he just needed one little push. Maybe it was that last chat he had with the woman, or perhaps the powerful influences telling him how Western women take everything from men and give nothing back. He found his thoughts changing. Earlier that very same day, he found himself snapping at another bland girl, spilling coffee in his arm, the same as all the rest, useless now to get him. He didn't know what was happening to his mind, but he felt profanities echoing around it in women's presence. Sinking another drink, his finger hovered over the confirm button for his flight, and he clicked. In just a few hours, he lands in Medellín. The heat slaps him in the face, and he knows he's somewhere completely different. And he wasn't the only one. There are about 8 to 9 single men also with him from America in queue near him, all likely going for the same reason. But he did know that over 1 million people visit this popular Colombian city every year. It's a tourist hotspot. He'd read about the world-class museums, the vibrant nightlife, and the stunning architecture. The weather was perfect all year round, the food's exceptional, there's amazing coffee, and everything costs a fraction of what you'd pay back home. But if we're being real, that wasn't the top of his mind right now. Marcus had more romantic plans. Romance tourism to cities like Medellín is a movement that spans continents and crosses borders. It's an entire industry of people foregoing relationships at home to take on something bolder and more fruitful abroad. Some actively embrace terms like passport bros, pushed by influencers with massive followings who've turned this lifestyle into a business. The R Passport Bros subreddit has grown to over 80,000 members in just a few years, creating an international network where countries are ranked on maps and experiences shared for how great they are for men like Marcus. While Colombia has dominated the headlines, few countries rank at the top of the best locations for passport bros, from Thailand to Vietnam to the Philippines and Brazil and even Eastern Europe. Some men actually go to this community and showcase their success to get advice or actually provide some value to other men looking to do the same thing, but not everyone is lucky. And then there's the opportunists, making a commodity out of hundreds of people like Marcus and turning romance tourism into an industry that serves them, and not the vulnerable men they purport to care about. What Marcus didn't realize was that his arrival was predictable and hadn't gone unnoticed by those who'd learned to profit from young, vulnerable men.
Yeah, just to pause right there. Um, yeah, it's unfortunate, man. That these guys are some of these guys are losing their lives. You know what I mean? And it sounds like he just got robbed, which is horrible. But some guys straight up get killed. And it's heartbreaking, man, because I'll just be the one to attest that dating sucks in the states. It's uh, insane amounts of hypergamy. I know a lot of women they won't understand, right? But me as a guy, I understand. So like the young beautiful women are all seeking the top 1 to 2% of guys in the states, right? It literally plays out that way in dating apps as well. Um, and most guys are a version of average, right? Maybe slightly below average, maybe slightly above average, but even those guys, even the slightly above average guys, aren't getting aren't finding girlfriends, and they're certainly not finding wives. You know, and this has been a trend that's been going on for over a decade now. And it's only getting worse and worse with yeah, social media apps as well. America is already a very individualistic society. So then when you throw in these other levels of technology and the access that young beautiful women have to guys in other cities, states, countries around the world, there's no room for average guys, right? So average guys go overseas, and I completely understand that, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with dating abroad. There's nothing wrong with dating here in Paraguay. There's nothing wrong with dating in Colombia. The thing is, you got to be well aware of the dangers. Paraguay's a much safer country than Colombia when it comes to dating, right? And so, even myself, man, I would like to visit Colombia. Really, truly, I would like to. But it's not really at the top of my list because of a lot of the dangers that can go down. So anyways, man. So I feel the passport bro movement, what it's supposed to be, right? It's not supposed to be tricking. Even if you meet women online or whatever, and you want that to be something, I don't blame y'all. Shit, I've done the same stuff. Whether it be like Tinder or whatever other app. I feel you, Uh so I get it, but it's unfortunate, man, that a lot of these guys are putting themselves in danger, right? Anyways, let's keep going.
Digital pipeline that had delivered him here was just one side of an equation he didn't yet understand. But the course was set. One of the first things he did when he gets to Medellin was download Tinder. And suddenly, like that, he was starting to get all these matches. Matches with women he could never get back at home. And this is when he matched with a beautiful looking woman named Camilla on Tinder. And
Yes, and if we're just gonna be completely honest, man, your average Latina, Colombian, Paraguayan, oh my God, they're beautiful. Really, truly, they're gorgeous. You know what I mean? So Brazilian, whatever, man. This is South America. Everybody knows women here are gorgeous. And so, that really gets to guys' heads. It really does. Falling in love really quick. I've seen guys fall in love so goddamn quick, dude. knock girls up and like whatever, man. That's your own whatever decision and stuff. But I'm just saying, like, you're thrown into a whole nother environment, right? And their beauty alone, which you know that you could never match that beauty in the States, right? There's just not that as many beautiful women in the States. Let's just be honest, right? Um, are there some? Sure, you know, but again, even dating those, you're gonna run into 10 million problems, most likely, right? So, man, it's unfortunate, man, because I always say in dating videos here, it's not a cakewalk here, and when you get here to Paraguay either, right? Women are women everywhere. You know what I mean? Um, and so just but it's unfortunate, man, because a lot of these guys, they just get really dumbfounded by women's beauty down here. So and then they just like let everything go. I mean, like all they let down all their guard in every single way. And I'll be honest, like I have too in some occasions. Uh, Not to this kind of level, but you know, it's a hell of a thing, especially if you haven't had a lot of luck in the States. So, anyways, keep going.
She suggested meeting at Hotel Dan Carlton. She mentioned this had the best view in El Poblado, the main place for expats in Medellín, adding, "You'll love it." But unbeknownst to Marcus, that one simple message would change everything. Camilla watched Marcus's face light up when he saw her. He was nervous and couldn't believe how attractive she was. But for Camilla, this was just another tourist, another rooftop bar, and another performance. She was just 24, but she'd been doing this for at least 2 years now. She studied nursing during the day, that part was always true when she told them. But in the evening, she worked a different kind of shift. She wasn't necessarily a prostitute, at least not exactly. She told herself that distinction mattered. She was more like a tour guide. Camilla put Marcus at ease, told him how excited she was to show him her city. And it wasn't entirely fake. He seemed kind, courteous, genuinely interested in what she had to say. And after a few drinks, she could see his confidence returning. In another life, maybe this could have all been real. But tonight was different for Camilla. She never lets those thoughts get to her for too long, as she's been discussing a new technique with her friends the night before, something industrially efficient. Her friend Isabella had been using this for months. She'd shown Camilla the small vial of white powder, explaining how just a tiny amount could render a man completely compliant. With that, you can kill 10 people, but it's better in powder form. You rub it on their chest, Isabella explained. The substance came from the bolicello tree, drunken binge, that grew wild throughout Colombia. It produces beautiful white bell-shaped flowers that hang like lamps. In the West, it's better known as datura or the angel's trumpet, but Camilla knew it by its street name, devil's breath. Most call it scopolamine. It's tasteless, odorless, and you can hide it on a business card and just blow it in someone's face. And the results of this can be described as zombification. Within minutes, victims enter a state of zombie-like compliance. They'll hand over their valuables willingly, follow instructions without question, even withdrawing their money from ATMs with their captors standing right beside them. 50 milligrams of it can kill you, but deaths are pretty rare. Victims usually just stay compliant longer. Some reports still feeling the effects of the high for 15 days.
Duré 17 días viajando con otro parcero. Mi parcero se quedó en el viaje. El hermano hoy en día anda así en la calle.
When victims do eventually wake up, sometimes 24 hours later, they remember absolutely nothing. It literally blocks the neurotransmitters in the brain responsible for recording memory. The US State Department reports unofficial estimates of 50,000 scopolamine incidences per year in Colombia, more than 130 every single day. According to the National Police, a scopolamine attack occurs every 10 hours in Bogota, with police admitting the vast majority of incidences are men poisoned by women from small street gangs called micro cartels. Camilla studied Marcus across the table as he talked about his work, his hopes for the trip, but he just had no idea what was coming, or that there was an entire industry preying on people like him. Was this coldly calculated? At this point, yes. She felt glimpses of something else, pity, maybe even guilt, but once again, she knew how to dull those doubts. After all, she hadn't planned for her life to turn out this way. Marcus had come here looking for exactly this, right? Two different parts at the same table, and she wasn't really caring about what he was saying, it was just time to move. So she excused herself to the bathroom, did the end of a cigarette into the powder, then returned with a smile. When I step outside for some air, 15 minutes passed and she watched the change happen exactly as Isabella had described. Marcus looked up at her, confused for half a second, then with that glazed expression she'd been told to expect. "Let's go somewhere quieter," she said. He nodded like a child and just followed her. Now by this point, Marcus clearly found himself in an extremely dangerous position as they got into the cab. He was sucked in, and you could even say lured in, by a powerful travel industry built around dating abroad. But behind the soft lighting, the palm trees, and the smiling local women in influencer videos is a huge growing business, one that turns male loneliness into views, subscriptions, and paid coaching funnels. Romance tourism has always been popular, but love is one of the most easily corrupted emotions, one of the main things you can manipulate men with, and it's manifested itself as an industry of mixed and often dark intent. Women abroad like Camilla are depicted as respectful to men in a way that those at home aren't. They're receptive. But some just depict them as just easy to pick up. Some have actually been accused of using the same women in their videos or paying them to join as a part of their marketing game. The same influencers who claim women in other countries respect men more are often the same ones who are seen with multiple women on each arm. They're picking up women in the street, showing how easy it is to hook up. Most of all, they just make it look so effortless. If you have a Western passport, you'll get the hottest women. You just stop them in the street, chat to them, and that's all you need to do. Even just doing this in English, not speaking their native language. Just be confident and it will all fall into place.
Bullshit. This is why I hate the gurus, man. I just did a reaction video on I ain't gonna say his name. You guys can just go watch the last couple of videos of mine. How he insults our women here in Paraguay. That's why I had to do it. But there's that whole market, man, of like, and you can tell it's really easy for a guy like who actually had experiences in the States and here historically, but even now, to call out these gurus, man. And they're all the dating coaches and all this shit. I'm like, that's not a real girlfriend. You know what I mean? Um, and yeah, man, and I always say this, like, if you guys are gonna be here for a week, don't even try to get a wife. Don't even try to meet a girlfriend. Just try to have some fun. You know what I mean? Uh, there's no way in hell she's gonna wait for you more than like 3 to 4 months, right? I've literally been through this before. Okay, stupidly, I admit, but um, and then the younger they are, the even less time they're even willing to wait for you to come back. This is why you guys need to be looking into residency. This is why you need to be looking to actually live here for months, if not years, if you're able to. You know what I mean? I know that's easier said than done, but if you guys are coming for a week, even the one thing I don't like about, well, okay, I like this documentary so far, but the thing that it's not mentioning is for every one of these scam artist women, there actually are good women here. Okay, there are good women here uh, in Paraguay and in Latin America, right? It just takes a long time to be able to foster a real relationship, right? And then the things that will help you are: do you understand the culture? Do you understand the language, right? Do you know how to dance? Are you more open? Are you a good storyteller? Can you hold her attention? Can you make her laugh? In Paraguay's case, do you know at least a few words in Guarani, right? Creating that familiarity. Are you a singer? Can you go to karaoke and at least sound decent? All these things you got to take into consideration, guys. You're not gonna reform yourself over here. If you had absolutely zero game in America, right? I've been fortunate to have several relationships in the U.S. and back in the college days, hookups and all that too. So and I was bartending and all that kind of stuff too. So for a while in my life, it was pretty easy, right? Uh, you know, to to be with women, right? And then also coming here also helped a lot, improving my Spanish and all that stuff over the years, and going back and having a story to tell, right? So many guys are so fucking boring, bro. They don't even have a story to tell, or they don't even know how to tell their own story properly, right? So like, you guys just need to understand this. Like, there's multiple levels to this stuff beyond just looking like a Chad. Looking like a Chad, sure, it helps, right? Absolutely. Um, but there's other things as well. Okay. All right, let's keep going.
Or and maybe pick up their course for $1,000 a month just to be sure you get all of their
I hate
tips.
that.
The dangers of this just can't be ignored. Many warn followers to take a picture of a girl's ID before bringing them home. Some joke about getting scoped, drugged, and robbed like it was just part of the adventure. For some, it's part of the thrill. You'd think people like Camilla would be more aware of these stories than Marcus, but the influencers tout these stories as if they were some funny holiday event.
There's not a doubt about it. Colombian women are the most beautiful women in the world, but they're also the most dangerous. You never know when they might slip in your drink. You never know. You might wake up without your phone, your iPad, your credit card's missing, $5,000 in cash.
You go scoping me.
I got scoped here.
What happened?
2 years ago. That's the coolest part. I don't know what happened. I woke up without my shit.
The darkest truth is some romance tourists like Marcus never actually come home. People in Marcus's position, following the advice of men who apparently care about their love lives, have suffered horrible endings while in their pursuits of respect for women. Take the tragic story of Paul Nguyen, a 27-year-old logistics consultant from California who didn't return to his Airbnb after going on a Tinder date in 2022. He'd taken a Snapchat photo of his date, a slim brown-haired woman in a white jacket. The next morning, he didn't return to the Airbnb and his friends raised an alarm. It turned out that his credit card was used multiple times in odd late-night transactions. 12 hours later, his body was then discovered behind a trash bin 5 miles away from the bar.
Family of a young man from Orange County is struggling with their grief and at the same time trying to find out how and why he was killed while on vacation in Colombia.
Then there was Tao Xiong, a 50-year-old Minnesota comedian who called his family in December 2023 saying he needed two.
That was very sad, man. He's from the Midwest. He's from the Twin Cities, right? And my brother lives in the Twin Cities, so just a Midwest guy, you know. This one hurt, right? This one hurt because he has a lot of swag and he had a lot of influence in his community in the US, right? So he was a very liked person, you know what I mean? Um, he was a very influential person and he was a good man, right? And it's sad, you guys. Like, Christ, man, it's because I know that you guys struggle in the States, right? And I know that, it's getting harder and as than it has ever been, right? So then you save up your money to maybe go on one fucking vacation, maybe try to get residency, but you're most likely not getting a residency in Colombia. That's where you have to go to other places like Paraguay and stuff. But for it all to end, dude, for it all to end, this one hurt, man. This one hurt. But let's keep watching.
$2,000 because he'd been kidnapped. The family then sent the money through PayPal immediately, but it wasn't enough. The next morning, his body was found at the bottom of a ravine near the Robledo district. He'd been tied, tortured, stabbed, and then thrown 260 feet down a cliff. Other survivors described the same pattern. A 28-year-old businessman, also a victim of scopolamine in Colombia, told reporters, quote, "I matched with a girl on Tinder. Just another girl, I thought. Just another date. She took my iPad, my phone, my wallet, my credit cards, my ID, everything but my laptop." And if you're shocked by these two men dying in the pursuit of pleasure, it's more common than you might think. And this issue may lay a lot closer to home than imagined. Porn addiction will mentally kill you long before you reach the same fate as these guys. Quitter is on a mission to take over the industry, help men regain control of their lives, and finally break free from this evil habit. With their in-app 28-day challenge, 500,000 men have already seen incredible changes in their lives. With increased discipline, improvement in ED, and confidence in themselves and in talking to women. Quitting porn doesn't have to be difficult, and with Quitter's cutting-edge app, 28 days is all it takes to enjoy the physical and mental benefit. Late. Like others before him, Marcus had been sold the dream of finding true love and delivered as prey. Now, as he was led out of the cab and to his hotel room by Camilla, he found himself at the mercy of forces above what he didn't foresee. You see, Camilla had actually tried OnlyFans as an escape route when she was younger, but this was way more effective. She was so close to finishing her nursing degree, but without tuition money, she'd have to drop out. Like so many countries targeted by romance tourists, most of the Colombian population is below the poverty line. Not many weeks ago, she created her first dating profile and joined a different kind of pipeline. a network of women targeting gringos. Not always Americans, but any foreigner with hard currency who was naive enough to really believe they'd found true love. So here's what's really happening while you're watching these glossy, perfect influencer videos showing Colombia and other dangerous countries in a similar way. Local networks are working and studying these men who deliver these dreams. They want you to believe in an image so that they can milk you. The system for exploiting men on the ground in places like Colombia has evolved around the same time as the male loneliness epidemic, the one that these influencers get paid from. While online opportunities cultivated men like Marcus for months, local networks had learned to position themselves at the end of that pipeline, ready to extract their own value. In Colombia, some women work alone, others with gangs. Journalists in Medellín have even uncovered gang bosses like the so-called Queen of Scopolamine, a serial killer who killed between 5 to 6 men, although according to her court testimony, there were a considerable amount of others. Now, of course, Colombian authorities are aware of this problem, but they're overwhelmed. In a city with more than 25,000 reported robberies annually, only a fraction ever lead to arrests. And most of the time, nobody's talking to the police, they're completely corrupt. But that's not the point. Why are these men coming here in the first place? What is pushing them here? Is dating that bad in the West now that we need to find other poor countries where we can finally feel validated and actually find true love? What
Okay, hold on, man. I don't like that framing. Poor countries. Like, come on, man. Like, look. Like, I don't know. I don't like that framing. I don't know where he's going with this, but like, I hate it when people are just like, oh, you're just gonna exploit the women there. It's like, nah, man. I know a lot of older gentlemen who have found real love here, you know? And you know, it's something that it's still possible. It's still possible. Is it a perfect cakewalk? No, it's not. But at the same time, like, I don't like this framing about you're just going there to exploit the women. It's like, no, no. By the grace of God, maybe I find a beautiful, attractive woman here abroad, in Paraguay, in Colombia, wherever. But then that also comes with, you have to be here for a while, and your ultimate goal should be to live here. You know what I mean? Otherwise, there's a very, very slim chance that it's actually going to work. Okay, let's keep going.
this shows is what's lacking in men today in the West, that they feel so compelled to go to dangerous countries like these to find love, all because the people they interact with in their own countries seems to always reject them, or just be people they can't have any real connection with. Because this isn't just happening in Medellín, but it's also now starting to happen in many other cities around the world, targeting these Western tourists, from Manila to Bangkok. So cracking down too hard on the very image of warm hospitality is a complicated business. Even Camilla, who's stuck in this web just like Marcus, as she's had to grow up in a country ravaged by drug cartels and obviously in a third world bad situation. She realized she would make a year's wage in a night if she performed the fantasy people like Marcus had built before stepping off the plane. And of course, it's just business for these people, executing a usual.
Sorry, guys. One moment. I gotta get my laundry out.
Strategy, walking Marcus to numerous ATMs to get money out for what she told him repeatedly was more drinks, walking back to his hotel room, plastering him with more drinks to keep him compliant as she systematically ransacked his room. She then coerced him into opening his safe to access his passport and rummaged through his belongings for anything with any semblance of resale value, while Marcus spent most of the time slurring and flopping around on the floor between being sick. Then, after locking him away helplessly in a wrecked room, she left to pay some of her bosses, as you can't do many of these things without others noticing and demanding their cut. But the fact that this is even an industry in the first place is really an indictment to how bad dating must be in the West. If people are going to obviously dangerous countries to do this sort of thing, and it's so common that there's now an entire criminal economy around this stuff, shows there must be some issue at home if so many guys are falling into this trap. The modern dating crisis and the growing loneliness epidemic are quietly leading to more and more of these cases. Faced with rejection, social isolation, and a collapsing sense of purpose in the West, many men are just fleeing to these countries where dating feels more traditional, connection more accessible, and finally gaining a sense of love, spurred on by influencers creating this echo chamber and this illusion that it's just impossible to find love in the West anymore. And in doing so, this is creating a global issue that's only getting so much worse. In Brazil, the US consulate in Rio recently issued a warning about drugging dating scams targeting tourists. Criminals seduce foreign men men slip sedatives into their drinks, then lose them and rob them in hotel rooms. We also see this in Bangkok and Bali, the same devil breath style scams, where victims are stumbling around like zombies, being completely controlled, their cards maxed out, and sometimes even overdose deaths. Medellín is just the most visible example, with 8 Americans vanished at once in late 2023, bringing the total to 29 deaths in recent years. It's so bad that even Tinder now has to place warnings on the app. On Facebook, we can see a private scopolamine victims group that has more than 5,000 members sharing stories and lookouts. Thousands more are warning about this on the Passport Bros Reddit itself. And while most survive, living with this kind of experience would be difficult for anyone, especially those most lonely and unloved. And now, staring at the ceiling of his own flat rather than a hotel room, Marcus is learning the hardest lesson of all. Sometimes when you think you're the customer, you're actually the product just being sold.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a hell of a thing, man. It really is. It's really too bad. Uh, you know, so yeah. I mean, this is exactly why you guys need to be careful about where you go. And I understand. I understand the allure, right? I get it, right? Beautiful women, I totally get it. But you guys are betting everything. Not well, people who go to Medellin in particular bet everything for a few days of fun, for seven days of fun, maybe max 14 days of fun, and you guys got to just think a little bit. Like, is any woman here really gonna love me, follow me, wait for me if I go back? Um, the answer 99% of the time is no. They're not. You know. Also, you guys need to be more focused on your life mission. You need to have like YouTube channels. You need to have projects and that kind of thing, right? Because these little week trips, they're just always going to be temporary, right? You might have an amazing experience, but if it lasts 7 days, 14 days, and but then the rest of the next 350 days, you're suffering in this loneliness, cycle in the States, then that's what kind of life is that, right? This is why like people need to take moving abroad more serious. And again, I understand it's very complicated. I get it. Really, truly. You have to dedicate months and years to this, right? It's not a game, right? So I totally understand, right? But at the same time, it's like that should always be your real goal. Your real goal. You know what I mean? Um not these 3 day, 7 day vacations. I mean, if anything, you're probably going to come back with more heartbreak, right? And even when you get here to live here, it's still not easy, right? Like I've always said, that's why I'm a year in, and I haven't found the one yet, right? Uh, have I dated? Sure. Have I been with pretty beautiful women? Sure. Yeah, but it's not a cakewalk. And also, a lot of guys don't have any standards, right? Because they're coming here with the Western mindset of happy wife, happy life. Let me just put up with whatever just because she's a beautiful woman. But the thing is, the moment that you start giving in, they're gonna walk all over you. You know what I mean? So even if she's very beautiful, and I understand, man, you want to hold on to a beautiful woman who you think is into you. I get that. But you need to be very careful, right? And even if they're not doing this, like the drugging and robbing and killing, even just your more normal gold diggers or your more normal ones who want to get stuff out of you, like you got to remember to live your own life, and you're gonna unfortunately have to date quite a few women if you want to find a right woman. You know what I mean? um And don't let, especially when you guys are like older, right? I mean, don't let these red flags slide. You know what I mean? They'll capitalize off your weakness. I guarantee they will. You know what I mean? Because you got to remember, all this comes back to economics. It comes back for economics for us when we're dating in the states that we can't afford to date. Or if we're just going to be honest, even if we get a girl's attention, they're probably not even worth it taking her out on such an expensive date, whether it be hundreds of dollars somewhere downtown in your city. Um, that's if you're getting a date at all in the States, right? Uh, but then here you got to remember the economics on the majority of the woman's end. In Paraguay, for example, people are making around 330 $350 a month or so. So just you can keep that in mind. Uh, you unfortunately may be looked at as a mark economically, right? So that's why it's good to find women who, number one, are really good, strong family connections, have a good, who are hopefully not raised by single mothers, just keeping it honest. Try not to date single mothers either. I know that's really hard because they're really beautiful too. But they come with so many freaking issues, man. um, so don't try not to date single mothers if you can avoid it, right? I know that there's a lot of guys who will date single mothers, and there's some that are better than others. But it comes with a big headache, and I also got to make the distinction between American single mothers, the majority, which they kind of they get bored or they want to relive their youth, so they'll literally just destroy a family because of that. But here, most of the time, it's actually the guys who will destroy a family because they'll just get in their head that they're top shit, right? So there are a lot of single mothers here for that reason. Some of them are good-hearted, but equally, it can be very difficult. So yeah, kind of going off on a rant. I know this is a bit longer reaction video of mine, but yeah, just keep in mind what you have, what you don't have. Being more cultured and knowing the language helps a ton, way more than you guys think it does, right? And also like building authentic connections here, like even with like guys. Having friends on the ground can be very helpful for meeting folks, but also for having your back as well. You know what I mean? Even if it's just like, hey, let me share my location with you, just in case I don't show up tomorrow, right? So you got a local who's now looking out for you. You know what I mean? But that kind of thing, man. And man, I just feel for these guys though, because I know how it is, man. Because like when I got out of the long term relationship, I was like, damn, bro, now I have to try to date again in this 2022-2023 market. Like, damn, this is gonna suck in the States. You know what I mean? um I was just like, dude, I can't even do it. And I already knew about Paraguay, so I was just like, man, let's just try to get to Paraguay. You know what I mean? So on my way out the door, I guess I had a couple of hookups, but beyond that, I was just like, let's just get to Paraguay. You know what I mean? Again, it's not a cakewalk either, especially because I live here. A lot of people, unfortunately, like, uh, do want stuff, right? That I'm not willing to give, or I just don't have. You know what I mean? But we're not all just rich as hell. You know what I mean? Uh, but yeah, man. So, anyways, I guess point is just be diligent, be strategic where you want to go. Try not to let their beauty just overcloud all of your judgment. And just hang in there and try to live abroad for months and years. That should be the real goal in your life, right? And then that sets you up for affordable retirement and all that good stuff too, right? So these weekend warriors, dude, you're at best you're getting an experience to go tell the boys. um you know you may feel good physically because you've just been with a beautiful woman, that'll wear off within a week or two, that feeling of whatever. And then you're back to the US grind, dealing with the US, and gonna have to deal with the US for the rest of your lives, unless you do get residency, unless you do start planning a way out or saving up money so that you could at least have, like I said, months or years abroad. And gifting that to yourself, you know what I mean? Because those guys are the guys who are actually finding uh good ones, you know. And yeah, and focus on your side projects, man. And hopefully those side projects like YouTube or whatever, hopefully they become your full-time thing, you know, eventually down the line here. Okay, I mean that's one of my goals. You know what I mean? uh but anyways, take care of yourselves, you guys. Writing it on to here, my best life Paraguay, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.